Hi there, welcome to our Trends Reaction episode on polarization. Before we get into the Q&A, it's a pleasure to introduce you to our panel. So today we have Nigel Downer, Head of Jack Health US, and Ben Russell, our Senior Strategy Director at Vivi. So my question to both of you is, what role should healthcare brands play in addressing these issues around elections? Should they sit on the sidelines, or should they get rowdy and get involved? Over to you guys.
I do think that there's a higher standard that they need to hold themselves to. So I would encourage brands, to get out there and sort of lean into their purpose and start to let consumers know what it is they stand for.
And thinking about electorates and constituents, definitely the diversity of that audience and who those people are in different regions is definitely, in different states and different congressional seats is definitely something that's important. And so addressing that in the healthcare system and what representation and diversity looks like is also important.
Great, thank you both. That was really insightful. So moving on to the next trend, my question to you both is, how do brands navigate these often challenging environments and simultaneously be brave and bold by living their brand values for their people and their customers? Ben, we'll come to you first.
I think that's a great question. And I've been thinking a lot about this in the context of just brands in general. And I think this definitely applies to healthcare. And I think it's really about the level of specificity that advertising and marketing can get. So, anybody can create advertising, anybody can create good advertising. But I think the difference between good and great advertising is that level of specificity in its intention and its messaging. That will eventually resonate really strongly and strike a really specific nerve and chord with an audience. So with healthcare and healthcare marketing, those brands I think can go beyond kind of the mass awareness TV spots that we see quite frequently, and be more specific and interact with people kind of on the ground on a more kind of group or individual basis. So again, that level of specificity creates that resonance that is showing how brands can create a message and communicate that message in a way that's invaluable to their consumers.
There's an inherent responsibility that healthcare brands have to communicate and share the information around, what are the risks, what are the benefits, all the information that you would expect them to share about a particular product, and do it in a way that's easily consumable, easily digestible, is sort of at the right level of what we call health literacy. People need to be able to understand it, right? And it can't be all sort of scientific. It needs to be consumable. So I do think there's a responsibility that healthcare brands have to do that.
That's great. Thank you. Some really interesting opinions and thoughts there. So my last question for you is, what do you see as the biggest issue that healthcare brands will face this year beyond their products?
Unfortunately, I think it's the same issue they've had for the last few years, which is trust. Pharma and healthcare brands got sort of a really nice halo effect from COVID and rose sort of in the consumer trust ratings, and now that's sort of all gone, right? According to a recent Gallup study, I think healthcare and pharma fell the most in terms of positive perception in the last year of any industry. And then overall, healthcare broadly is sort of in the lower half of all industries, and pharma was dead last. So that's like after banks, oil, the federal government, right? So it's really, really low. So there's like this real gap between the perception and the trust and the purpose. So that to me says pharma brands need to bridge that gap and somehow sort of be bold, be brave, lean into their purpose in order to find opportunities.
I think it's really important for brands to continue in the healthcare space to build trust from the other end. And a lot of that is kind of like on the ground social issues, addressing those in a way that makes historically marginalized audiences feel that they can interact in a way that's actually authentic, and like it makes them feel better and even great about interacting with the brand.
That's great. Thank you both. That was a really insightful session here. So thank you both for your time, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode of our next Trend Reaction series.